George Washington, the founder of our country, made one of the most important statements that I've discovered in this process. Freedom and property rights cannot survive without each other. And in this context, with our issue that we're going through, family farms and property rights cannot survive without each other. We don't have a lot of time and we have some more speakers. You're going to hear some really good stories, well, really bad stories to tell you the truth, but everybody means every word of it. And thank you much for coming. And next up is my friend, fellow family farmer, Mr. Jared Bosley.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is powerful. This is as powerful a situation as I've ever been in my entire life. Just to sit here and know these people are all gathered. The pipeline family is growing more every day. And I've pushed that family side of this thing the whole time. As I've met people through this whole battle that will be personal friends for the rest of my life and help us get through this. So, my name is Jared Bosley. I'm a fourth generation farmer and I'm currently raising the fifth. And life's kind of been, we'll just say hectic since this whole thing has really started. And this just didn't start 6 months ago. The middle of July has been 2 years that we've been doing this. And our word is finally starting to get out across the state and across the nation. Property rights is huge. People are learning that this isn't just farmland. It's my farmland or all our farmland now, but property, like Mark said, is everything you own. So I'll give you a little kind of the Cliff Note version of some of the things that happened. I've been opposed to this the whole time. I feel Summit knows that. So they've been to my farm twice, and the one time I was gone, I was nowhere near there. They made up false charges about me that I threatened to kill them, so I got to go to court for contempt of court and more or less ended up with a restraining order on me. I had to stay 100 feet away from them the next time they came to survey. And when they came out, that day was pretty much unannounced. I had heard they were thinking of them days, but 2.5 weeks prior to that, hadn't heard nothing of the sort of officially that's when they're going to be there. And again, it's just another. My boy was going to pick bales up, and here comes the cop cars and the sheriff cars and a semi, and they had pickups. Must have been 7, 8 pickups, and they went right through the cow lots. They opened 4 gates to get back through the first field to go to, and just go right through your farm and in there. And all I could do was sit across the road and feel in disbelief, helpless as much as you could be to see this happening. And you can't do anything about it. And that day goes on, and as soon as the pipeline family I referred to again, they dropped everything and they came to my side. They knew I couldn't be there. I couldn't be out there to watch for the damages and anything like that. They tell us all to be in to watch the damages where they're going to survey. But when you got to stay 300 feet away, it's a little hard to get very close. So people came and they videoed all day. It was not a real fun day, 101 degrees, 30 mile an hour wind. The crop's dying anyway, and I guess they finished what they drove on. But it just goes that this is a real thing. It gets very real. My family, my wife's scared to be home alone now. My kids, they go to bed at night, they lock the door. We didn't ever do this stuff. You were never worried about your family being scared to be in your own house and on your own farm. I mean, the neighbors around are fantastic. There's no worries, nothing. And now that is a real thing that is happening. And I do not want anyone else to have to go through some of the BS that I've went through. And that's why we have to get some of these things changed. We got to get this eminent domain law changed, and we got to have the governor call for a special session. She went out of her way the other day and told us that she stands behind the landowners, the ranchers, the farmers. So I feel we're giving her a perfect chance to show that she is and call this special session. And I appreciate everyone for being here. And like Mark said, we don't have much time, so I have to keep this moving. But again, this is powerful. Look at what this is becoming. And every day we go and it gets bigger and bigger. And I said the term before, we're pushing a snowball and it's getting bigger and we're going uphill. But we're getting closer to the top of that hill all the time, folks. We got to keep in this together. We have to stay together on this. Our biggest key to beat this is together. And hopefully some of these elected officials can start helping out and doing the things that they ran on and stood up for to get elected.
Hi, I'm Ed Fishback. I'm a farmer in northern Spink County, fourth generation. A lot of family members of with my last name farm in Brown and Spink County area. I think there's about 12 of us farming on each side of the county line. They call us our own little county sometimes. This is a tremendous turnout, folks. But we're here for one reason, and one reason only. Because as landowners, we're under attack by an out-of-state, foreign-backed company that wants to take our land, jeopardize our safety with a hazardous material that could sicken us and kill us if and when it leaks. And we're asked to subsidize this and help them make millions on top of it. Isn't there something wrong with that picture? Is that what we want for our state of South Dakota? I sure don't. We're here, and the situation that Jared just talked about is because of our flawed eminent domain laws in this state. What was done to that family could be done to each and every one of us here in this room. And it probably will be done to you. That's just the beginning. And the reason they can do that is because we've got a legislature that refused in the Senate to even hear our bill and to remedy the situation. And we've got a couple of circuit court judges who ruled that they could go ahead and do all this invasive surveys and, might I add, condemn through eminent domain well over 100 parcels of land that affects nearly 300 people of our citizens of South Dakota. And they can do this before they even have a permit. Shameful. What's wrong with that? So, Governor Noem, you say you stand with us. We need your actions to speak louder than your words. We need you to come out of hiding and to stand with us. We need you to call a special session. You said the legislature never gave you the chance to sign our bill, House Bill 1133, because they never got it to your desk. Okay, Governor, put it back in the legislature's hands. You could do that this very minute. Force them to put it on your desk. Let's have that debate. And for the few senators that sabotage our legislation in the session, that are telling us now that they don't support a special session because we don't have a bill, let's not get the cart before the horse. Get the session called first. And the day you call the session, we'll have a bill waiting for you to pass and debate. didn't our bill pass in the legislature? The House did it overwhelmingly. Thank you, House members, and all of you that are here. We have a lot of them here. It got stalled in a stacked Senate committee. That's where it stalled. We never got a chance to even have a vote or a debate on the Senate floor. And it's time that we get that chance. And let me tell you why we need that chance and who is responsible for that. The motion to send it to the 41st day was made by Senator Casey Crabtree and seconded by Senator Lee Schoenbeck. If you want to know why they might do that, let me read something that Senator Schoenbeck did in the beginning of this whole process. He's been on the airwaves and the radio stations talking about how we need eminent domain, that it's a wonderful thing. He says we wouldn't be able to turn on your water faucet or your electric switch if you didn't have eminent domain. Folks, that is a lie. And let's call it what it is. And the reason I know that is because I served as chairman of our Rural Water Board in the 1990s when we were having construction, web water development. And all web water development, Brown Day Marshall Rural Water System, Mid-Dakota Rural Water System, Clark Rural Water System, all those got traded for the old Oahe Irrigation Project authorization in the 1980s. And you know what? Even though we had the power of eminent domain, it never got used, not once. And he knows that. He knows that. People wanted it. Same way with our Rural Electric Association. My Rural Electrics never had to condemn me for anything. They just put in about 3 miles of new line here this past fall and winter. And nobody objected to that. I let them do anything they wanted to on that because that's something that the public benefited from and everybody wants it. Eminent domain has a purpose for public projects, not some private company or individual that's going to line their pockets off the backs of our citizens. Let me quickly tell you what Senator Schoenbeck did in regards to the eminent domain issue. We're talking about this Summit Carbon pipeline that we're all here opposed to. Early on, the route for the pipeline was to go through an area near Watertown, his hometown, through a development called Harmony Hill. That's where it was supposed to be. Senator Schoenbeck certainly didn't like eminent domain when that route was going to go through there, and let me read what he said. This is a copy of what he put out on the public docket at the Public Utilities Commission. Anybody can get it, pull it off the docket. It's public information. And this is what he did. He wrote to them and said, "This is a route issue and an eminent domain issue. They need to not go through that new housing project or they won't like the legislation they see next year. Please feel free to share with whoever can resolve the conflict. Lee." Then he went on and he sent a note to the chairman or the CEO of Glacial Lakes Energy, the ethanol company in Watertown, Jim Sire. And here it is. "Jim, a group of us in Watertown just got advised that your proposed pipeline goes right through the middle of the community's large new development at Harmony Hill. You need to talk to the pipeline people. That route is a non-starter that you don't want to be in the middle of. Let me know what you're going to do about it. Lee." So folks, my point here is this. Here we have a politician who sabotaged our legislation because when it was going through him, he didn't want it. But he moved it over onto his neighbors. And I would never do that to my neighbors. That's not a very Christian thing to do, is it? No. So that's what we're up against. And let me also tell you about the company we're dealing with here. On January 31st, 2022, a chief operating officer for Summit Carbon Solutions, named is Jim Peroli, in an interview with KELOLAND TV, I was interviewed and so was he, to get different perspectives. And the issue of eminent domain came up then. That's a year and a half ago, folks, and I was already telling them that they were going to use eminent domain on people, and he was denying it. And I want you to pay attention to his quote that he said. Here it is, quote, "If Summit believed it would have to use eminent domain to get much of the property for the pipeline, it would not have pursued the project," unquote. So here we are today, folks. We're supposed to trust the word of this company now? They could have abandoned it now. We have over 100 parcels in South Dakota that are facing eminent domain right now, affecting nearly 300 people. In Iowa, there's approximately 1,000 parcels that they can't get. At what point do you call them out and say, you have not kept your word? Is this another company that we want to be doing business in South Dakota when we cannot trust anything that they say? I don't think so. One more quick thing. This argument about how many people they've got signed up, there's never been any proof to what they say. Ask them to prove it. But I will tell you this, we've heard from numerous people that have signed these easements in all 5 states that wish they wouldn't have, that were either intimidated or bullied or threatened into signing it. A lot of people didn't want to go through the eminent domain process and pay a lawyer. That's how they get them. That doesn't mean they're supporting the project. And one more comment. On the House floor of the debate on House Bill 1133, Speaker of the House Bartles spoke against our bill, and his comment was, we need to keep the eminent domain law the way it is because we have to have it hanging over the heads so that the company can have that as leverage to force these people to negotiate with them. Folks, that's not economic development. That's economic terrorism. Let's call it what it is. And we hear often that we're open for business here in South Dakota. The way we're being treated and what the Bosley family went through, I was there all day. I saw it. That's not economic development at all. No family should have to go through what they did. He was basically held a hostage on his farm that day. That's what it was. They had security guards a half a mile away from every direction around his farm, on all 4 directions. That's what anybody could be ready for. They're coming for all of us. And so let's get on. Legislature, do your job. Governor, do your job. You say you're with us. Get out, support us. Let's get the special session, and we'll get the bill to your desk if we just can have the debate. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Ed. Craig Schoeneman from Brown County. Served in this body back in the 90s, and first thing I want to say, property rights are everybody's rights. It's just not about this CO2 pipeline. This is just the beginning of the fight, not the end of the fight to change this eminent domain. I, like Ed, was there that day that Jared's family, the surveyors were at the farm. I was at the county commission meeting with Carl, began to get text messages from Jared that they're here, texted Ed. Ed was the first one there. I was the second one there that day. No family should have to go through what the Bosley family went through that day. But there's one person I'm going to recognize because I asked Jared what he wanted me to do. And his wife was out at the drilling rig because Jared couldn't be there. So I went through the cattle yards. Tara's sitting right over here. Right there, standing. She's been beside Jared the whole way. And we were standing there in the heat and the wind, and I could see it in Tara's eyes. And I said, Tara, you don't want to be here. And she goes, no. I said, I will stay there. You take your daughter, you go back to the farm. Because you should have seen the emotion in her eyes. And again, no family should have to witness that. But I stayed there until Mike Clipful came, and we were there all day for the Bosley family, and we'll be there for anyone else that experiences that. But just remember, property rights are everybody's rights, and we need to continue this fight, and we need to stick together. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Colin Duprell. I'm a fifth-generation rancher, and I live out in Meade County, South Dakota. One of the biggest reasons I'm here today is last year, when I ran for United States Congress, I met this great group of landowners out in East River. And I realized one of the problems that we have faced as a state for a long time. That is that, as farmers and ranchers, we're often too busy to show up to things like this. Back home, I left hay in the field ready to be baled. We got irrigation pipe ready to lay. We shouldn't have to be here in the Capitol begging for the governor to do her job and call a special session. So I guess the first question I would ask is, Governor Noem, are you listening? I hope she is. Summit Carbon and the people that work for them, you have to remember, all share one thing in common. If you go onto your neighbor's place and you steal something from them, that makes you a thief. If you go to your neighbor's place with a group of your friends and you steal something from them together, that makes you a criminal organization. That's what Summit Carbon Solutions is. We're a big state, but we're also a rural state. That's one of our hallmarks, it's one of our strengths, but it's also our weakness. Because we're such a big state and we're so rurally populated, getting people organized is the hardest thing. Getting people to things like this is the hardest thing. But we can have 1,000 rallies with 1,000 landowners at each and one of them. If we don't get something on paper and get something done, it won't make any difference. We have to do something more than stand in front of cameras and give speeches. We have to get the legislature to work, and we have to get a bill on Governor Noem's desk as soon as possible. Furthermore, we need to quit looking at these lines that have divided us for too long. For a long time, farmers, ranchers, tribal people, and landowners around the state were told they weren't supposed to be on the same side. But it doesn't matter where eminent domain is taking place. It doesn't matter if it's in Sisseton, Standing Rock, down in Gregory, in Brown County. We have to stand together because we want the same thing. We are stewards of the land, and when we stand side by side, there's no governor, company, or any member of the legislature that can stop us. So here's the reality. We as a people are pretty disappointed in Governor Noem, and I've talked to enough people here to know what they want. We need her to quit taking campaign money from Summit Carbon Solutions and listen to her constituents. And to the legislature, there's some good ones here. You can see them standing behind me. But there's a lot of people noticeably missing. There's a lot of people from a Senate committee that killed this bill before it even made it to the floor that are missing. They don't deserve to be in office anymore because we're drawing the line in the sand here today. So to the people of the South Dakota, the first thing that I'd like to say is a couple of days ago we celebrated Independence Day. Ben Franklin, at the signing of the Declaration of Independence, was searching for bravery in the room, and he said, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we will all hang separately." And that is what is going to happen to us if we do not unite. And to the governor and our legislature, I would remind you of our state's motto: under God, the people rule. And the second part of that would be is that if you guys don't do something to stand up for us and to fight this battle, we the people will. And we do not need the governor or the legislature to do it. Right now, we have the ability in South Dakota to pass initiated amendments and constitutional amendments, and we're working on them already. But we have to get the signatures, and we have to be together to do so. So keep an eye out in the future for a hands-off amendment that I'm working on right now that stops the legislature from tinkering with bills that we put in front of them at the end of the election cycle. With that, I'd like to invite one of the good legislators up here. Orrin Lesmeister is here, and I'm sure he's got a lot of great things to say too. Thank you.
Well, first thing I'll say is, sorry you get to listen to me today. I'm a fill-in for Red Dawn Foster, who has not been able to make it here today. But thank you for everybody that's here. What a turnout. This is what it's about, folks. Amen. This is what it's about, getting the citizens involved, getting them stand up and use their own rights. And when it comes to property rights, we all need to stand up. This is not a partisan issue. The speakers ahead of me said it the best. They're trying to draw lines between us, even between ethanol and landowners. They're trying to draw a line. As long as there's turmoil and chaos between them, they can do what they need. Stop. Unite and come together and work on this issue, and we'll solve it. Right. Now, as far as when they say that there's hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in South Dakota, well, it could be. But guess what? Landowners in this state, farmers and ranchers, for centuries has been spending hundreds of millions of dollars in this state. These are the same landowners and families that have been here for 1 to 2, 300 years in some cases. Look at the tribal nations that have been here forever. They've invested here. So to have a company come in that's been here for maybe 2 or 3 years and say, we're going to use eminent domain because we spend a few $1 million on you, I'm sorry, but that don't cut it. Plant your roots here. You know, and I will give this to Governor Noem. She went to Washington to fight for property rights, and I thank her for it. That's her job, and she did it. But did she forget what's going on right here in South Dakota? Amen. Yeah. I hope today that she gets the message and will maybe step out and call this special session. There's been people who said we don't have a bill ready. 1133, I don't think will solve the issue at hand right now because of retroactiveness. But there's other bills that can be brought that'll bring this light, because if we let this go on, this is going to set precedents into the future. And if we don't stop this now or correct things now, what's going to happen in the future for eminent domain for private gain? Because that's what this is. So with that, again, thank you for everybody who's coming. Keep up the fight. Keep your voices loud and proud, and we'll move on. Thank you.
First of all, thank you everyone for coming. My name is Brandy Schaefbauer. I'm a representative from District 3, which is Aberdeen, located in Brown County. When I ran for the legislature, I ran on being pro-God, pro-family, pro-life, pro-freedom, and pro-constitution. I didn't have any idea I would have to be dealing with a pipeline, knowing so much about carbon and eminent domain and what is going on with our land issues. But then I thought, you know, Brandy, it's really easy. We have this shiny little object over here that they want us to focus on, and that's called the pipeline. But what really is at stake is our private property rights. Amen. That's right. They say this pipeline is good because it will create economic development and it will create jobs. I am not against either one. In fact, I really love jobs. I wish everybody had a job. But by force? Do we want economic development by force? No. Why can one future site ask for the pipeline to be removed from their future development, and a landowner doesn't have the same right to ask for that pipeline to be removed from future herd expansion? Why is it good for one piece of property and not the other? Why can one legislature do what their constituents ask and put in legislation or a note and be a hero when other legislators that are asked to do the same thing are called names and crazy and all sorts of things that we shouldn't be saying here in public? This proposed pipeline is supposed to go through land, but if a landowner doesn't want it, they are threatened, they are coerced, they are condemned and sent to court and rack up legal fees that I know I don't want, and I know nobody wants them. So you might think this might not affect you because you live in the city. That's where I'm from. My district is my city. But then I ask, what's that shiny little object that we're focused on? The pipeline, right? But we're not supposed to be focused on that. We are supposed to be focused on our property rights. First it's the land, and then it's going to be your home or your business you have worked forever to build up and hopefully one day make a profit. And now we have a private company who says that they can use eminent domain and create the best use of that property that you have worked so hard for. Economic development will happen when we know that our property rights are protected. People won't move here when they don't think their legislators will help protect them. They will move here when we protect private property rights and do what we say when we swore our oath to the Constitution. Amen. That's right. People will move to our state when they know that their rights are protected, their freedoms are protected. And they will move to our state when they know that their representatives will do what they ask and fight for them. And they will definitely move to South Dakota when they know that under God, the people rule. Amen.
I'm the short one here. I'm Representative Carla Lems from District 16 down by Canton, and I was a sponsor of HB 1133, and if that would have passed, none of us would have been here today. But here we are. We're all standing together. This is where we should be today, to fight for our rights. First of all, I would like to thank everybody here that came, that made a long trip. I talked to somebody today here from Colorado. Yeah. I'm guessing we have people here from Iowa. We have any Iowans here? Any Iowans? But anyway, we just thank you so much. There is another big event coming up in Iowa this Saturday, so if you would like to go down there to Fort Dodge, we're going to be standing for property rights down there, because this isn't even just a South Dakota issue, folks. These two pipelines are going through a total of 6 states, and you think that they are going to be the last ones in line when they know that they can get this done? No, it's going to be a domino effect, and that's why we have to draw a line in the sand today and say, nope, not on our watch. Amen. a lot of singing back in the day, and I used to sing a song this time of the year. It was called Let Freedom Ring. And one of the lines from that song was, God built freedom into every fiber of his creation. Yes. And he meant for us to all be free and whole. When we see something that does not line up with what we know deep within our soul is not right, this is what happens. People start speaking up. They start joining hands. They start working together instead of against each other. And that's what we see here today. And I'll just remind you, this is the week of the 4th of July. We celebrated 2 days ago on the 4th of July. But that's the day we celebrate. It's not what we celebrate. That's right. We celebrate independence. That's right. Independence is why this country was founded. Because people that were under tyranny from other nations came here because they knew they could be free. They knew part of that freedom is owning something. And when we lose the right to own something, to own our own property, folks, we are slaves at that point. It's time to stand up. You know, I was so proud of Congressman Noem at the time when she went to Washington, and she fought against what we call the death tax. And that was a threat to property owners in our state and throughout the country, that at the end of your life, you were going to have to give a good share of what you had worked for, and maybe your grandfather had worked for, and your great-grandfather, and you were going to have to give it to the federal government. And I was so proud of her at that time for standing up and saying, nope. And they were trying to take it at that time on the back end, you know, when somebody had died. Now they're coming to us on the front end with our own tax dollars that they took from us when we wrote our check to the IRS, and they're coming at it with the 45Q tax credits, and now they're coming to our front door with our own money and trying to steal our property. Well, we are all here together to say, not on our watch. It's not going to happen. We are fighting the same war. This is just a different battle. So I'm proud to stand for property rights. I am proud to be an American, and I'm proud to be from South Dakota. And I just wanted to say, we here today, there are Democrats here, there are Republicans here, there are Libertarians, I'm sure there's some independents. This is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue, and this is a South Dakota issue. In our South Dakota Constitution, we are reminded that our elected officials rule by the consent of the governed. Well, I'm here to say that governed have shown up today, and they're saying we do not consent to this.
That's right.
So Governor Noem, we come asking you today to once again stand with the people by calling a special session and by righting this wrong. And I have no doubt that if you stand with us, we will get this done. Not on our watch.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Representative John Hanson. I'm from Del Rapids, South Dakota, and it is a true honor to stand today with landowners and farmers from all across the state of South Dakota in defense of our God-given constitutional right to acquire and protect private property. What is happening today in South Dakota to honest, hardworking landowners and farmers is an absolute scandal. It's a scandal. Summit Carbon Solutions, you've heard about them. Out-of-state, foreign-owned company. We know that they're owned in part by the Koreans. According to Governor Noem, they're owned in part by the Chinese government. Who knows who else owns them? But Summit Carbon Solutions has walked into South Dakota like they own the place. You heard it from Jared Bosley earlier. They entered into his home, into his building, they trampled on his crops, they drilled into his private property, all without a shred of permission. Not exactly the South Dakota way. All South Dakotans should be concerned that a private company from out of state can come in and do that to land in South Dakota. Having our South Dakota landowners' fourth and fifth generation farmland be condemned and used without consent by an out-of-state, foreign-owned company is not freedom. Does that sound like freedom to you? No. It's not the freedom that America promises. And it's not the freedom that politicians have promised you either. But here's the deal. There is a solution. It's not Summit Carbon Solutions. That's not the solution. We must end the use of eminent domain for this carbon pipeline right now. We must never allow foreign-backed, out-of-state corporations to supersede the rights of we the people. We must never allow the stripping of our private property rights to become just another cost of doing business. And after hearing all that we've heard today, lawmakers and our governor must choose. Side with an out-of-state, foreign-owned company, or side with South Dakota landowners. Side with big corporate lobbyists and donors, or side with the people's constitutional right to private property. And for me and every other lawmaker in this rotunda, and there's a number of them standing behind me today, the answer is simple. We side with South Dakota landowners. We side with our South Dakota farmers, and we are on the side of protecting your freedom and your private property rights. So we say to our fellow elected officials, let us actually show, not just pontificate, let us actually show that we stand with our farmers and landowners and have a special session. Let's do it. And to Governor Noem, these landowners are pleading for your help. They need your help. And you can call a special session with just the stroke of your pen. So, we ask you today to call that special session, call the legislature into session, defend freedom, defend property rights, and defend South Dakota landowners and farmers all across the state. Ed said it earlier, actions speak louder than words. And landowners need our action today. We refuse to be ruled by massive corporations. We still claim the mantle that under God the people rule. So we call on landowners and our governor to do everything that you can do to get us into a special session and bring about some relief. Whether that's your signature on a petition or your signature on a proclamation, doesn't matter. The time is now. We must reform eminent domain and defend private property in the great state of South Dakota. So thank you all so much for coming. Keep up the fight, keep the faith, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Well, we're getting pretty close to wrapping things up here, and just a couple things on my mind. There's a lot of us that have been on this for coming on 2 years now. There's been a lot of stuff that has happened. But looking around here today is the beginning. We can't go home and continue to do nothing. This is going to take a lot of effort from a lot of us to get us to where we need to be. Now, just a couple quick announcements. On Sunday, the 9th, I believe it is, in Millette at 7 o'clock, there's another regional meeting on this particular issue. We're going to keep this thing going if anybody is interested in that. And to reiterate what Carla said, our friends down in Iowa are having a meeting on the 8th, which is on Saturday, because it's not just a here problem. This is clear across the Midwest. And Governor Noem, I hope you hear us today, because we have the opportunity to be a leader in this. And that's what South Dakota has been, and that's what it should continue to be. So the last thing on the agenda for today, Mike Klipfel, where are you at? A fellow landowner from McPherson County has a pile of petitions here, over 2,000 deep, that we are going to deliver to the governor's office requesting a special session. And for the last thing, Mike is going to lead us in a rendition of God Bless America. And if there are any other legislators that would like to stand up with the landowners and the other legislators here that we don't know about, we'd invite you up. And with that, thank you for coming.
Let us all join together if we could, please. Let us all join together if we could, please, and sing the first verse of God Bless America. God bless America, land